I'm living in hell right now. My son just turned 18 and is disabled. He needs and takes multiple medications and needs support at school. He does well in some settings and is on track to graduate and pursue trade school, with support, and we're so proud of him. He is extremely impressionable, a little socially awkward, and desperate for friends. For years we've struggled because he gives his possessions away, gets in bad situations, someone offering to sell him rocks at a park, him thinking they are collectible polished gemstones, so he asks to see them, and then freaks out when he realizes they're drugs, and is easily bullied. He will do anything to be liked. Which breaks my heart. And we're working on it in therapy, with trusted adults, etc. The grown man. This guy is 28 years old. Let's call him Quentin. He's frequently homeless, often sleeping in a tent in parks. Or, he'll get a voucher from our city to stay in a motel. He has 2 pit bulls, not spayed or neutered, that he will leave in the tent or motel room when he works, at a fast food job. I actually have compassion for him and his animals, if he had nothing to do with my son. It started with him asking my son to watch his dogs in the park while he worked. My son is so thrilled to have a friend, and be helping, and he does love animals, so he will spend 8+ hours a day or night, alone in a park, watching these dogs. He would ask can he take dog food, toys, and blankets from our house for Quentin's dogs. He does it whether we say yes or no. Months ago, we would say yes because I appreciate that my son wants to help these dogs. Starting a few months ago, when my son turned 18, Quentin told him he didn't have to stay with us, and could stay with him. For weeks, our son was sleeping in the tent with the dogs or rough in the park. Quentin gives him beer and weed. Our son will watch the dogs for entire shifts while he works. Quentin tells him he will help him get a tent and vouchers, too. The police are sympathetic especially because my son has disabilities and also some medical issues. But he is 18. School is supportive but he's almost to graduation and again, he's 18. We had not ever pursued medical conservatorship or anything like that because before now lots of things were going right and we don't take that lightly. Removing civil liberties from another young adult. In the past week, Quentin got another room at the motel. He messaged my son to come stay with him, and he did. My son sat in the room and watched his dogs while he worked and I imagine they smoked and hung out when Quentin was not working. My son would respond to text messages from us but asserted he is an adult and can go where he wants. He missed a week of medication, school, part of his part-time job, and another important appointment. Being Quentin's friend is more important than all of these things and he feels good helping his friend and says, Quentin / is like a brother to me, he's the best brother I've ever had. Quentin's own family have kicked him out. They are nearby. No idea who watches the dogs when my son is not available. Quentin doesn't drive and earlier this week my son gave Quentin his bike because he needs it more than me. Our son came home yesterday and had a complete psychiatric crisis because he's been unmedicated, and probably also high/drinking, for so many days. His medical issues are exacerbated. He was banging his head on the concrete floor and when we called emergency services, he spit at the police so they put a spit hood on him and restrained him. It was horrific and he was begging for help. We're not sure when he will be stable enough to come home and may need a medical procedure. He was coherent today, crying, apologizing, but still 100% certain Quentin is his friend. I also feel terrible because I know that at age 18 it's a good thing for my son to be not telling us everything, having his own friends in life, etc. I look forward to that day. He does have other friends who are closer to his age and their hanging out is more appropriate. But these other kids have busier lives and more responsibilities. They aren't available 24/7. Quentin is and my son feels so good when his phone pings and it's his friend needing him. How can I make this man's life miserable? Or at least, make it too uncomfortable or risky to keep hanging out with my son? Nothing to harm or stress the dogs, please. It's not their fault and my son would never forgive me. Commenter, sounds like you might need to pursue medical conservatorship, which I know you don't want to do, but it sounds like you definitely have grounds and it's the lesser of two evils at this point. I don't see things ending up well without intervention. Oop, thank you for this, and others who prompt me to reconsider conservatorship. I called a lawyer on Monday. I had already done research and collected that info, but had a lot of hope that once sheltered work started up and he had less free time it might not be necessary. Commenter, pay someone to be your son's friend that's more of a caretaker? Honestly. This guy sounds at the very least like a scammer. Sometimes the only way people into deep in one scam, is a second scam. It's sad but there's literally a bot on R, scams for recovery scams. Basically people promising to recover your loss for some fee. It's not great but if you could afford someone to offer better friendship and then point out that his old friend is lame it'll be like positive peer pressure? Maybe help the person could help them join appropriate opportunities for new friendship then phase out? Oop, this is another great idea and I appreciated the comments below it here in the thread. I have reached out to some young adults older than him that might serve as mentors or fitness coaches. Hang out with him, work out, play basketball. Build positive connections with people who don't wish him ill. Thank you for this. I have a few possibilities here in our area. Commenter, if it was my son, there's nothing I wouldn't do to ensure his safety and well-being. My advice would be to just make this man's life miserable. Contact his work and make complaints against him. Tell them he's selling weed or is abusive to customers. If he has a room, report him for dealing drugs and threats of violence. If he stays in the park, phone the police and claim his dogs are attacking people in the park. All anonymously, of course. Maybe nip down to the park late at night and set off a shitload of fireworks near to his tent. Do this over and over again. Make it your life's mission to ruin him. He'll move on when it all gets too much. My son is autistic too, and him being taken advantage of is a great worry for me. I hope it all works out for you. Oop, thank you for this. I did contact his employer because my son isn't the only teen in the neighborhood Quentin is giving alcohol to. I also contacted management at his motel where he occasionally stays to let them know this person was letting a vulnerable teen stay there, and miss school, and meds, and that it was surely against their policy. Quentin was not happy I contacted his work in the motel. I felt really empowered by so many of the comments here to engage around this and make his life more difficult. Yes, and great insight to others who mentioned maybe getting my son a dog. He actually has a medical alert service dog and other pet dogs, and cat, and fish, so animals are truly a special interest of his. Heartbreakingly, he will leave service dog with us because the dog is safe and we love them, but Quentin's dogs need him. But yes, we lean on the gifts he has with animals to build other areas of his life. I just spoke to the local police again tonight. Sometimes they lean heavily on he's 18, he's an adult, but some of them, when they get to know him a bit, realize he's vulnerable and are more willing to help. Yes. Son has an interview tomorrow at an animal adoption center. This is the type of setting that would keep him busy, help him feel like he's doing something important, and give him better adults to be around. Commenter, get rid of the dogs. Go on Facebook and post how they are being abused, and an intervention must take place. Get rid of the tent. Is he camping illegally? Call the cops. Get rid of Quentin. He's not good for anyone right now, not even himself. A major intervention is 100% necessary for all parties involved, for the police, for you, and for your son. There is so much to lose with inaction. Oop, I did part of this evening. Son got home from hospital last night, back on meds, stable. Goes to his special interest class at school, does great. Goes for bike ride. Lo and behold, he's back out with Quentin and the dogs. It's after 10 p.m. so park is closed. Quentin is pitching the tent. I called the non-emergency line to let the police know a homeless man with 2 pit bulls was sleeping in that park near the playground. Police went and moved him, sent son back to us. I will keep doing this. I might also flyer homes near the park to let them know there's a homeless man with 2 pit bulls who provides alcohol and weed to teens in the park near their home, to help make it less comfortable for him to be there. Thank you for this advice. Commenter, you could see if Quentin would accept cash and a bus ticket to leave town. It would be the least messy way to disentangle him from your son. Or if you can round up a group of scary people in a van. A different kind of ride out. I appreciate and applaud the autonomy you've given your son, but it's time for his own sake. Update 1. A few months ago I came here asking for tips to help get a man named Quentin out of my son's life. I'm super grateful for all of the ideas, and many kind words. As of today, and for the last 3 months, my son is happy and healthy. We found a transitional living house for him with 5 other young men and 2 house managers, and a dog. He's learning to adult, learning to cook, clean, and get a job. It includes therapy, gym every day, yoga, skateboarding. Truly a dream come true. The house is about 40 minutes away from where Quentin lives, and my son feels he has friends, is purposeful and feels adult, and is learning and busy. They will also do job training. Before this happened, I took as much of your advice as was possible. I contacted the manager at Quentin's workplace and the motel he occasionally stays at. I told them Quentin was allowing a disabled teenager to stay with him and giving him, and other teens, alcohol. Manager is local small business owner and took my information seriously. I also went to motel and pointed out the sign that said all guests must have ID. My son does not. I told manager I hoped he was abiding by rules or I'd contact corporate. I also started calling non-emergency PD line when he was camped after park closing time, and leaving his dogs during the day. PD would move him along. Someone had the great advice of being his best friend and showing up all the time. So I did. Quentin wants to see my son. Hey, here I am, too. I'm at the park, I'm at your work, I'm near the motel. I even prepared flyers to let others in the park neighborhood, with a playground for small children, know about the tent, camping, and unsupervised, unneutered pit bulls. Quentin got increasingly upset. He said I was stalking him and he was going to call the police. I said, politely, please do. I'd love to tell the police more about what you're doing with my son and other vulnerable young people. I told him, you want to be in my son's life, I'm in your life. Up to you. I really felt bold after all of your advice and encouragement. I was willing to keep going for the long haul. In the meantime, we found a lawyer and I started tapping into resources to find my son some kind of job training, because he really wants to help and feel grown up. For a few weeks he was working at a drugstore through a program through a local agency. That was huge for him, stocking and cleaning and helping people. It also kept him busy for about a month and kind of removed Quentin slightly. Quentin either got sick of seeing me, or afraid of losing his job. The location of the motel he had been staying at occasionally stopped letting him, so he had to start using another location much farther away. Farther to walk to work and harder to deal with. I think he realized my son wasn't worth the trouble I was causing, and just stopped contacting him. Thank you so much for all of your ideas. I was so focused on trying to fix it from my son's end as his mom I had no idea how to actually deal with Q. You all were fantastic. Huge thanks from the mom of a happy, healthy, busy and purposeful young adult son. Commenter, glad things in your situation are going in a positive direction, but wondering why you have to mention unneutered pit bulls in such a negative context. I'm 100% about spay and neutering all animals right now cause this country is in a crisis with the homeless pet population, but I feel like your statement wasn't mentioned because of the same reason. Oop, absolutely. Thank you for naming that. I'm also worried about the animals. One reason I struggled at first with what to do is if my son weren't a factor, I would feel drawn to helping Q and his animals, or at least pointing him to resources for that. I have colleagues who work for organizations who help those without homes to stay with their pets, often their family. Since I wrote the first post, one of these dogs has had puppies. I also tried to help my son realize that he wasn't responsible for the dogs and it was a hard life for all of them. Until it became clear how in danger my son was. I guess I mention it as another example of how the adult in the situation was not being responsible, and how the untended dogs were not safe for themselves or other unfixed animals who might come into the park. For me the state of the animals is also sad and one reason my son was so compelled to help. Which is a negative. I feel for them thought and never wanted to harm or scare them. ETA, sorry if it may sound like taking Tenerian from op, but our services are helping many in this situation, and we will do anything it takes to see our members succeed. I may just be admin and accounting, but I wholeheartedly believe in our organization and mission. Now on to second story. Secretly learned Afrikaans to impress my girlfriend's family, but now I accidentally overheard her gossip that unveiled unexpected secrets. My girlfriend is South African. Her native language is Afrikaans. I've been learning how to speak Afrikaans without my GF knowing. I secretly applied for online courses that I've been using on and off for more than a year now. My plan was to surprise my GF and her family with my American Afrikaans when I finally meet her parents in person for the first time later this year. I never intended to eavesdrop or anything, but learning Afrikaans in secret accidentally exposed me to sensitive information that my GF was sharing on the phone with her Afrikaans-speaking friends from South Africa. It was gossip I was not supposed to understand, but eventually I did. This is what I've heard in the past few months. 1. My GF is planning to surprise me on my birthday by reuniting with her high school metal band and putting on a show for me. 2. My GF wants to tattoo the names of literally all the Harry Potter spells on her back, but she doesn't know how to tell me because she's afraid I'll talk her out of it. 3. My GF casually mentioned that one of the unexpected differences between her glasses and her contact lenses is that when she's on her knees looking up at me with her glasses on, my penis looks much bigger compared to what it looks like through her contact lenses, which is why she's keeping her glasses on during sex. Ouch. 4. My GF is convinced that my parents are swingers because apparently there are always attractive couples hanging out at my mom and dad's house whenever we visit. 5. My GF secretly finished the entire series of Better Call Saul without me, even though we agreed to finish it together, so now she's pretending to have no idea how the show ends. 6. My GF is thinking about canceling the high school metal band reunion for my birthday because she's no longer sure if it's appropriate to team up with two of her exes that are original members of the band. 7. My GF expects her dad not to like me. I would have preferred not knowing most of those things to be honest, but there is no way for me to unlearn Afrikaans, so now I'm cursed with knowing too much while having to pretend I know nothing. Update 1. I asked my GF to marry me in Afrikaans and she said ja. 2. I delivered my I want to spend the rest of my life with you speech in Afrikaans, which surprised and impressed my GF, aka my fiancé. 3. As soon as my GF became my fiancé, I casually mentioned that I've secretly been learning her native language and accidentally been eavesdropping on several phone call conversations she had with her Afrikaans-speaking friends about things I was not supposed to understand, like, for example, her feeling conflicted about reuniting with her original high school band members for my birthday because the band apparently included two of her exes, or the fact that she wanted to tattoo literally all the Harry Potter spells on her back, or that she finished Better Call Saul without me, or that she thought my mom and dad were swingers, or the real reason why her glasses were always on during sex, or that she's convinced that her dad would hate me, or some of the stuff she said to her friends after my original post, like how she was struggling to get used to my braces because the braces in my mouth plus the freckles on my face somehow made me look underaged and low-key made her feel like she's my older sister when we were out in public. 4. My fiancée was embarrassed when she realized how much Afrikaans I was able to understand and apologized if she made me feel uncomfortable. 5. I accepted her apology, even though it was unnecessary, well, except for finishing Better Call Saul behind my back. That was a playing with fire moment in our relationship, almost unforgivable. 6. My fiancée got one of the Harry Potter spells on her back, Erecto Patronum. I'm kidding, I stole that from another story. My fiancée is still considering getting her back tattooed. I said it was her choice, but I advised her to avoid covering her entire back with Harry Potter spells like she's some kind of Death Eater Michael Scofield. 7. My fiancée might be right about her dad not liking me because his expression of disappointment and dread when he heard the news of our engagement was priceless. That said, I'll win him over though, even if it kills him. Jokes. 8. My fiancée fully believes my parents are swingers based on the different couples she's occasionally observed coming and going whenever we visited my mom and dad. She wants us to investigate my parents because for some reason it's fun for her to imagine me being the son of a mom and dad whose sex life is far more kinky than mine. I'm not interested in opening that door though because I don't want to know what goes on in my mom and dad's bedroom. However, something tells me that my fiancée will not rest until she has all the answers. 9. I made it clear to my fiancée that I had no problem with her reuniting with her high school band to perform at my birthday, unless it was uncomfortable for her that her exes were part of the band. My fiancée ultimately decided to cancel the band because of behind-the-scenes drama. The drummer, who was one of the exes, apparently gained a lot of weight after high school and lost all confidence to perform in the band. The lead guitarist, aka the other ex, was only willing to participate if my fiancé agreed to play covers of gospel songs since he was now saved and no longer interested in playing the devil's music. The bass guitarist wanted money. 10. My fiancée still wears her glasses during sex. Update 2. However, since then, we've not only gotten ourselves unengaged, we've actually broken up. In my original post, my ex-GF, who was still my GF back then, had a wild theory that my mom and dad were swingers just because they always had people at their house. I never believed it, but I thought it was hilarious that someone thought my parents were that interesting. Not gonna lie, I struggled to move on after my relationship ended. My apartment had too many memories of my ex, so I called my parents to ask if I could stay with them for a bit, just to clear my head. My parents said yes. My dad offered to pick me up, which I accepted. What should have been a 10-minute drive unexpectedly turned into a 45-minute drive because my dad decided to take the longer route back to his house. When my dad was done making dad jokes to help me get over my breakup, he started doing that weird dad thing where he's trying to bring up an awkward topic, but it's too uncomfortable for him to just spit it out, so he ends up saying a bunch of words that only he understands. I was forced to interrupt my dad and basically beg him to make sense. My dad said since it was unclear how long I was gonna stay, he felt compelled to prepare me for what I might see at the house. If my ex was present at that moment, she would have punched me on my shoulder and said I fucking told you. Because my dad confirmed her swinger theory, which no longer made it a theory, but the truth, or as I like to call it, trauma. By the time my dad and I finally made it to our destination, my dad made sure I knew everything I needed to know. I made a list based on what I learned from my dad. 1. Both my parents were swingers when they met. 2. Swinging was not something my parents wanted to do while raising kids, so swinging was prohibited when my parents became parents. 3. To see if they still got it, my parents switched back to swinging when they had the house to themselves again, and lo and behold, they still got it. 4. Hosting swinger parties was something my parents did frequently, usually with themes. 5. My parents were planning to host another swinger party, but my mom was leaning towards calling it off so that I could come home and stay for as long as I wanted. 6. If my parents were forced to cancel, it won't be the first swinger party they called off since COVID. 7. The theme was prom night. I never expected my dad to go that hard in the too much information category, but as soon as he crossed that threshold, he got it all out of his system. I stayed with my parents for a total of 2 days before it became abundantly clear to me that knowledge might be power for some people, but for me, knowledge was fucking punishment. My mom, who was unaware that I low-key knew she was swinger mom, attempted to convince me to stay longer, and she almost succeeded, but I was done with my dad using our father-son bonding time to play guess which one of our neighbors are also swingers. I used an Uber to get back to my apartment. No more dad rides. I've never been so happy to return to a place that was haunted by my failed relationship. DR relationship ended. Didn't want to be alone. Called my parents, asked if I could stay with them. They said yes. Dad offered to pick me up. During the drive, Dad decided to tell me that him and my mom were swingers and kind of implied that I was fucking up their plans by unexpectedly coming over to be sad and shit. I returned to my apartment 2 days later with unwanted mental pictures of my parents fucking random people. My ex and I broke up because of a tattoo. Her friend passed away, which prompted her to literally get his name tattooed on the back of her neck. The friend was someone my ex used to sleep with before she met me. I made it clear to her, prior to the tattoo, that I understood that it was her body to do with whatever she wanted, but as someone who was prepared to be with her forever, it was gonna be uncomfortable for me to see another guy's name on her body for the rest of our lives, especially the name of a dead guy she had casual sex with. My ex got the tattoo anyway. The tattoo was small and barely visible. That was her defense. I knew it was there. That was enough. It was also very fucking visible in the doggy style position. Sorry for the TMI. We argued about the tattoo until we eventually said enough hurtful things that could never be unsaid. Clearly, the tattoo was worth losing me because the tattoo is still there, and I'm not, I would gladly relive the pain of my relationship getting napalmed, then listening to my dad make up synonyms for swingers like no-no monogamo.